Greetings, hi, hello, I'm Fire Lotus the Witch, and welcome back, and or welcome to my YouTube page. This is part two of the, I don't know how many parts there are going to be, of what I know about mediums and psychics as I'm learning it myself, okay? If we want to get technical, I've only been a medium for 2 years, as in, I came out on TikTok last year and saying, yo, I'm a medium and I'm going to start owning this, but in reality, since the moment that I was born. If you don't know what we're talking about, if you want to know more information, this should be on a playlist. So just click the video before that, and that'll be part one. I go over a small list of what your clairs and psychic abilities are, and so forth and so on. And now we're here. So here are some things that you're not going to hear from a lot of other people. Okay, I just learned this too. I wish somebody would have told me this 20 years ago. For one, number one thing you need to work on is building your confidence in what you are saying and or the information that you are relaying. Okay? Number one thing, right then and there. There are different types of psychics and mediums. So, and I'm trying to think of this, and if I can find the episode again, I'll actually post it. I've been getting a lot of my information from other psychic and mediums while listening to episodes on a podcast where they're interviewed. And so you have the people, we're going to say the Long Island medium, where they kind of fish. There's nothing wrong with it per se. I don't like it, but they kind of fish, which is they're like, so somebody is coming forth that's an A, right? And you tell them, right? That's not what I do. What I do and the type of medium that I am is I give you information that there's no way in hell I should know. Is that always and is that I guarantee in the readings and shit? No. But that's just the type that I am. I think it's called an evidential medium. In other words, in my readings, in some way, shape, or form, spirit will give me information that only you know about. And I've freaked a lot of people out. I've freaked myself out with it too, because again, it's just information that kind of verifies and validates, okay, I am speaking to your ancestors and this is what's coming through, right? And I'm also visual. So there are some people that will sense it. There are some mediums out there where, and I'm kind of like this too, where they have specific images, but that one image could dictate like 100 other things. You have to figure out what works for you. Well, Lotus, I'm one of those people who don't visualize in my head. That's okay too, because guess what? What are your psychic abilities? They are your senses. They're not imagery. They're your senses. You have to learn how it is wired with you, because I could sit here and tell you 1,000 ideas and 1,000 things that I've done, but that may not work for you, like I mentioned in part one. I think I mentioned that. I may have cut that out. Anyways, you cannot look at us like we're in high school or we're in a Americanized school, because the public school system, they don't teach people to actually teach themselves. They teach us to memorize. That's not how we work. So, like, a lot of the things you hear is, oh, well, let's do a meditation. A meditation may not work for you. It doesn't work for me. There are certain meditations that I do, but no. Okay, so what are some things that I can do to start tapping myself into this? Well, here are some exercises. Primarily, they are kind of more along the lines of clairsentience and claircognizance, but with this particular one that I'm about to mention, you can do the exact same thing. Be careful though. So the first thing before you actually go active, what I mean by that is actively going out and like doing this shit, you need to work on your protections. Well, Lotus, what is protections? Psychic protections. This could be physical items, charms, but more specifically, normally it's like a lot of the ones that you'll hear is surrounding yourself in white light. That may work for you. It doesn't work for me. When I go out in public, like say for the place that I avoid like a plague, which is Walmart, either A, I use a combination of crystals, like crystal jewelry and crystal necklaces. I've used runes and sigils, but the most common one that I use is a very simple one, which is the mirror technique. Basically, and if you cannot visualize, I will try to figure out a way that I can get you to like be able to do this. But basically, you're going to visualize liquid mirror being poured from your head all the way down and coating your entire body. So what that's supposed to symbolize is you just become a mirror. So instead of being an empath where you're taking up and, consuming all of this information, you're reflecting it back. There is one that I do, which is the elemental rings. It is exactly how it sounds. There are rings of the elements spinning around me in like this specific structure that I do. There's the silver light. There are all different types of protective out there. Why, Lotus? Why would I need protection if I'm going, to tap into my psychic abilities? For example, we're going to call it psychic touch because I'm not going to continuously butcher a name. So the clair of touch, right? So when you touch something, you can gain insight and information for that. Well, if you have that, a great way of practicing it, but it can be extremely dangerous, is going to a flea market and or going to your friend's house and seeing if they have some antiques or, something that was passed down that has a history to it, and just hold it and write down anything that you get. What I mean by this, you can call it download, you can call it sense. I don't care what you call it. What you pick up from what you're holding, write it down. Well, Lotus, I didn't get anything right. Well, congratulations, you're human. Do not go into this thinking that it's just going to, like a light bulb. Trial and error, okay? Trust me. Trust me on that. What I'm trying to say is if you go in with a preconceived idea of how things are supposed to go, you're going to implant doubt in you, and that's going to just completely ruin your entire path before you even begin, because doubt ruins so much shit. Okay? Now, you have your protections, right? Also, if you go to any place that could be haunted, remember, whether you are fully awakened or fully tapped in or opened or not, you will be seen by the unseen, okay? So here are some small little things you do. Before you leave, before you get in your vehicle, you say this verbally or just in your head. I preferably like to verbalize. You go wherever, say it's a house, you stand in front of the house and you're like, look, any spirits on this property, you stay the fuck here. Don't follow me home, okay? You have to be very careful with how you word things when it comes to if you are doing spirit work, okay? Because the slightest, oh yeah, follow me, there's no ending to that. You see what I mean? So please be careful. Do not invite spirits to follow you or to come back to you, because they're going to end up following you to your home and now you're haunted, okay? Now, with that being said, for the people who do go out to thrift stores, flea markets, and things like that, it would be, or antique stores, it'd be really cool, right? Be very careful. Most people who all of a sudden their house becomes extremely fucking paranormal active, it's because they brought something in. And think about this as a human perception. What are we as humans? And there's nothing wrong with this, to a fault. We're extremely materialistic. All these items hold energy and emotions, okay? So that new antique desk that you're turning into your writing desk could actually, in fact, be a raging alcoholic's desk who used to cheat and steal money from people. You just invited that energy back into your house, do some cleansings, and before I say this, don't come up in my comments, you're not supposed to shut up. I did not say smoke cleanse, I said cleanse. And I also mentioned nothing about white sage. There are over 1,000 species of different types of sage. You can use rosemary. In fact, you can use rose petals. Yeah, did you know that? Well, roses are about love and blah, 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 blah. No, you can use roses in exorcisms. So if you're trying to clear something off or detach something that is attached to an item, that's what you do. You can also use spray. Just have it outside of your house. As in, I don't care if you have a carport, anything that is connected to your house, like a porch, a carport, a shed, whatever. No, it needs to stay like right next to your car and have a designated space to put shit like that to kind of de-escalate it, okay? We have an old car on our property that I use the back of the window for. My partner randomly brought some like old things that he found in an old abandoned house home. And literally that following night, we had some weird shit happen, and I just kind of pushed my senses out. And I'm like, oh, yep, nope, those are going out there. They're currently still out there in that car, okay? No, I run a spiritual bathhouse here. Yes, like on Spirited Away. But there are rules, okay? Anyways, so the other exercise, which is really fucking fun because you can do this, technically you can do this by yourself, but it'd be a little tricky, so you're going to need at least 2 people. And yes, you can do this with your kids too. But I have to say, if at any point in time this starts to feel like an exercise, you start to get frustrated, you start to get annoyed, stop and walk away. This is supposed to have fun while also being slightly serious about it. This is basically psychic hide and go seek. You're going to get a random object. It can be a crystal. It can be a pin. It can be a safety pin. It can literally be anything, preferably small. You're going to get that object and preferably start small, which means you're going to need a small room, okay? So like a bedroom, you know. You're not going to need like half your house for this yet. You're going to work yourself up. You're going to get somebody to take that object and hide it, but at the same time, don't like, again, you're just starting this, so we're not going to like bury it under 3 feet of shit, right? So just place it behind a picture, right? Your job is to go in there. Now, you can do this multiple ways. With me, I like to do a blindfold because the way that I look at these psychic abilities, or what are psychic abilities? They are our own senses, right? What has happened that we've seen when somebody loses a sense, what happens to all the other senses? They're like, oh, fuck, we got to step up. So if you were to do this with blindfolds on, for one, that can help you access a lot of things, because that's actually how I discovered that I have second sight, is through a eye blindfold. While I was going to sleep, I've already done a story time on that, but yeah. So you're going to put this on, if not, just kind of close your eyes, and you're going to try to, if you could push your senses outward. So if you have anxiety or anything like that, you know what it's like scanning your room when you first go somewhere, even if it's Starbucks, Walmart, it doesn't matter. We kind of scan the room. That's what you're going to do, but you're going to push your senses outward. I don't know. It's very hard to kind of like instructionally tell you how to do that. But you're going to just go. So imagine if your mind was a wall that you could just project out, do that. The point of this exercise is to be able to sense and or see or experience or feel where that object has been hidden. Okay? You're going to do this until it gets too easy. Then you're going to elevate. You're going to go to a different room with more things. You're going to go to a bigger place with more things. Then you can take this outside. Okay? You can do it hundreds of thousands of different ways. It's a fun exercise. Number one things with your abilities is you have to access them. You have to do it. Second biggest advice. You don't think, you have to do. And these exercises, because what I'm saying is I'm not telling you to go live and start offering psychic medium reads. That's not how this works. You'll see a lot of, I'm an intuitive card reader, but in reality, they don't know what they're doing, because an intuitive card reader is not somebody who picks up the Seven of Swords and was like, your ex is coming back. No. An intuitive reader knows the meaning of those cards. They know how to intuitively take that specific information and intuitively translate that to you. That is an intuitive reader. An intuitive reader is not somebody who completely throws meaning to a card that has never been associated with that. Okay? I'm sorry. Y'all are being scammed. Secondly, psychic readings, mediums, whatever it is. If you're hearing every single thing that you've ever wanted to hear, 9 times out of 10, you're probably getting scammed, as in that person don't know what the fuck they're doing. Because let me tell you, I've relayed a lot of messages, and normally how I've learned is you're going to get something good, and then you're going to hear something you don't want to hear. Okay? Spirit is not here just to hype you up and say yes to everything. That's not how that works. Reading cards specifically, or psychic readings, they're not to predict the future. Divination is not to predict the future. Divination is to gain insight, because with insight, you gain knowledge. Okay? So now you know 3 different ways of how your next Sunday could go, or your next trip could go. Now that you have that information, the biggest question is, what are you going to do with it to help you out? Are you going to completely change it? Are you going to tweak it? Or are you just going to sit by and let life take you? That's the point of divination, okay? Okay. Also, another controversial thing. When a spirit passes over, so if you have somebody in your life and they pass and you try to connect with them and you don't get anything, you did not do anything wrong. I believe spirit takes time to transition over, okay? What's the transition time? I don't know. It depends. It depends on what the person was feeling. It depends on how the person passed. It depends on, did they know they were going to pass? Did they accept the fact that they were going to pass? It depends on how they pass. There's a lot of variance into how they cross over. Typically, 6 months to a year. At least in my experience, 6 months to a year. Some take longer, some don't. Now, okay, I'm trying to make sure I keep focus too on here. I did a lot of information there. Oh, the second one, the second exercise, it can be really, really fun. And if you love plants, again, I apologize for the background noise. Partners playing a game. If you like planting and or you just like being around like flowers, trees, shit like that, this one's going to be definitely for you. So, this is technically an energetic exercise, but it works hand in hand with your psychic abilities. So, you were going to walk up to a tree, a plant, something small. Don't try a tree yet. Something small, like a flower, a wildflower growing out of the curve. The point of this exercise is to try to project your energetic out of your body. Okay? Goes with the same thing of pushing your senses outside your physical body. Well, Lotus, how do I know? You will know when you connect with that plant. You will feel it. That sense, you are going to sense it, and that sense is going to be different. Whether that is a physical sensation, whether that is an emotional sensation, so forth and so on. I know it's getting repetitive, but I'm trying to make sure that I use the right terminology so people do not have a preconceived idea how this is. Because when we're like, oh, we're visualizing, it's not like we're pulling out a projector in our heads. Mine's more of an impression. But the reason you're going to attempt that exercise is because that exercise, especially if you have the one where you touch something and boom. What about the one with the scent or the taste or the smell? Call your friend and be like, yo, this is what you're eating. I don't know. In other words, these exercises don't have to be hard. Now, I will say that there are more advanced exercises that you can do, and before I suggest this, protection, especially for what I'm about to say, okay? So if you live in a historical location and or multiple historical locations, which if you live here in America or anywhere around the world, you have these. So there are multiple ways, and depending on how daring you want to be is depending on you. The first option of locations is a cemetery and or a graveyard. The difference between those is one is connected to a church, the other one is not. If you decide those, you are going to need to research and start practicing graveyard and cemetery etiquette. Basically, the proper ways to be able to go to these locations and not piss off the spirits that are there. And or, well, fuck around and find out and bring something home with you, okay? Also, on top of the etiquette, you need to look into the rules and laws and legislation where you are at. Why is this important? Did you know that theoretically, on a theoretical level, if you were to go into a cemetery and or a graveyard and collect dirt or dig a hole, you're technically vandalizing it? Yeah, and if you pick the wrong person, and they will press charges, and that's a whole entire fucking mess. Also, do not trespass. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it, okay? Now, graveyard etiquette. Why is this important? Most graveyards, if not all graveyards, have a guide or a guard. Depending on where you ask, we're going to use Appalachia for an example. In some parts of Appalachia, they believe that the first soul to be buried there becomes the graveyard, aka the oldest grave there is normally the guardian. But their graveyards and cemeteries themselves are, think of it as a crossroad. It's a lot of energy there, alright? Now, I've already done videos. If you were going to collect things from certain graves, you need to do your research, because depending on how that person was in life is depending on how that can affect your spell work, alright? Alright, now, let's go back to it. So, what's the point of going to a graveyard in general? Protection, protection, protection. But it's a great way that you not only can start to learn research, but also to see if what you're picking up is actually true. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay. You're randomly going to pick a person that you were drawn to or a grave, and then you're going to jot stuff down. So you will need to start carrying a notebook. Try not to force the energy. Let it flow. That is the number one secret. And if y'all haven't realized, I'm dropping tiny secrets through this entire video and the first one. That way, the people who actually watch the full one, you'll get all the information. But The number one thing, number eighth thing, is do not force it. If you try to force your psychic abilities, they will not work. Have you ever tried to force yourself to breathe? No. Have you ever had to force yourself to like move your hand left? No, unless you were in an accident, and I hope you fully recovered. But no. Why? Because it's natural. We naturally know how to do it. Your psychic abilities are the same. The moment that you try to force access, it closes up. All right? All right. Now, back to this. So, you can do a grave, right? You're drawn to this. So, you are going to jot down as much information, anything that you sense or you get from you connecting with that. This is important. When you are done and you're about to walk off, thank them and say, hey, thank you so much for this information. Please do not follow me, and leave something on their grave. Okay? Graveyard etiquette. You can find it online. Now, the second thing, and I think this is really fun, but this could also be 10 times more dangerous than actually going to a graveyard or cemetery, which is going to historical locations. Whether that is, I would stay away from an asylum. That would be way too much energy there. But, the Victorian home, something historically to where that information is easily obtained, but necessarily a place that you don't know the backstory to. Walk around, do the safety things, do the etiquette things, let spirit know why you're there. The last thing you want is for them to think that you're some weird ghost hunter and you're going to go in there and disrespect the fuck out of them. Also, as a spirit, don't disrespect the spirit world, please. Anyways, and walk around. Jot down as much stuff that comes to you. Then you go home in your downtime and you research as much as you can. And then compare. How much did you get right? And also, keep that information, because just because you didn't find that information while you were trying to research doesn't mean that it's not true information. Try to go to an actual source, like a historian maybe. These are all simple things that anybody can do in a safe way. All right? Because again, once you open yourself up, you're not just opening yourself up to your spirit guides and your spirits, your ancestors. There's a lot more other things out there, whether you see them, believe in them, or feel them, they are there. And you need to be precautious, all right? So, protection. So, yeah, again, if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, go check that out. Please. Okay, bye.